Man, y'all know the face, y'all know the name. Y'all tuned into the world's greatest podcast. No, I don't just say this because we've been in quarantine and I developed self-confidence. No, I don't just say this because it will look immaculate on a shirt worn by a beautiful black queen. Hashtag I need one of those. It's not a Jordan, but I need one. It's like having the best kind of water, like going to the doctor and get a checkup. What I need one. Know what I'm saying? It's not like a possessionary thing. It's like one of those things that you need because it adds value to you in the long run. So I need a queen in the pocket. You know what I mean? I need her in my life. You feel me? It's been a while. I've missed everybody too. I've been MIA. But you know what? Before we get deep into the story, I want to introduce somebody. Well, y'all know if you've been here, y'all know I don't introduce my guests. I feel like I should change them. Like everybody can't be butter. You know what I mean? There's margarine. There's all these different things. You know what I'm saying? Now there's GMO in butter. We don't know what the heck we eating now. So everybody can't be butter though. You know, the one that makes bread taste better. You know, butter, liquid butter makes what oil which you cook chicken and the things that you like in. You know, you put that with your pasta so it don't stick to the pot. You know, it's essential. You feel me? So I know everybody can't be butter. So I don't want to put that on anybody. That's not my job. So our guest, OG, someone very special to me. Please introduce yourself.
Everybody, my name is Michael Williams. Cletus, I appreciate you, man. Thanks for having me.
Nah, I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Can I tell everybody why I appreciate you?
Go ahead, man.
Man, this man, Mr. Williams. I never called you Mr. Williams.
Nah,
I just called you Mike. I was like, yo, Mike.
That's what I prefer, man. I want to be called Mr. Williams. Makes me sound like my dad or something like that.
I used to dap you up like I was dapping my friends up in school every day. And you're not a student there. I'm like, yo, bro, how you doing today, bro? How was it in there? They wilding today? They doing the most? Like, nah, I'm chilling. I'm all right, cool. Stay here, bro. If you need anything, we know we around. Like, it was a different kind of vibe. It was like a big brother in high school.
I appreciate that, man. And that actually means a lot to me because in doing this work, so often you have authority figures. And for me, I never wanted to be an authority figure. I wanted to be an influential one. So
how do you balance that? Because you know, like an authoritative. How do you keep control without making it seem like you're in control?
It's about building relationships, and it's about approach. For me, I've always tried to approach every age, and I truly believe this. It's why I do the work that I do, like they're humans. No matter their age, I never saw when I was working with my basketball group and I was working with, 6 to 9 year olds, these were humans. And so they had feelings, they had temperaments, they had all of these things that I needed to be able to navigate. And I couldn't just shut it down by saying, you're wrong or stop talking, because that wasn't going to get to a point where I could really make a difference. In the context in which I met you in school, I wasn't an authority figure just in a real sense in the building. Like I was part of an outside program that partners with the schools to provide additional services. You could choose not to come to see me or not. It wasn't going to affect your grade in the arbitrary sense. But what I wanted to do is be able to help folks either maintain the success that they had, or if they weren't so successful right now, how do we get you on track to do that? And sometimes that didn't come with just doing academic services and performing academic functions like tutoring and helping to fix an essay. It was more along the lines of how you feeling? What's up? How's it going? Oh, man, I see you having some trouble with the ladies, man. Well, what's going on with that? Is that shit, so it was more about building those relationships, because if I could build that bridge and I could help you see me as a person because I saw you as one, then we could talk about what you're doing academically.
You know what's crazy? I feel like shout out to the guidance counselors, man. I really
Yes,
I don't think I gave a lot of credit to my guidance because I could have been in a very bad space, bro. And my guidance counselors was like, because you know you said something that was mad funny to you. The dudes that was always in the guidance counselors always had women issues. It was never like we were there because he really punched somebody in their face. No, you don't go to the guidance counselor for that. You go.
You
go to the deans. You go get in trouble.
Right, that's a disciplinary thing.
So it's kind of funny. All the dudes who was very close to the guidance counselors helping out with the guidance counselor at lunch, I feel like a lot of them got lady problems.
You know, it's funny that you say that because so much of the bonding that I did with the teenagers that I was working with at the time was based on their social relationships. You know, for the young ladies that I would work with, or the young women I would work with, you know, sometimes I had a group that were phenomenal academically, phenomenal, and it bore out in all of their future success as adult women. They're all very successful, and I'm proud of all of them. Their risk was the social element, the boys. They were chasing some of the most ineligible boys that I've seen around in terms of if you just looked on paper, right? If you just look, and this is just my assessment on paper, all of them are eligible because you are redeemable and who you are on Tuesday doesn't have to be who you are on Wednesday, right? And I've seen students make that climb, and you can't judge what's happening. You can't judge a kid by things you don't know, and you don't know what you don't know. And so, you know, that is definitely not to say that those boys weren't eligible in the human sense to be with a girl, but on paper it didn't seem to fit. And then in practice it really didn't seem to fit once they would explain some of the things. Well, this is how you get taken off track. And now you got to make a decision on whether or not you're willing to bring yourself off the lane that you're on to success, so that you can spend time with someone who still needs to find that lane for themselves. And that was the work. I didn't tutor those young ladies, but I think the conversations that we had helped them to make more solid decisions that kept them on that path to success.
See, I don't like to ask questions on women because I feel like I just will never understand unless it comes from a woman.
There is truth to that, man.
But do you, from your assessment, what do you think some of those factors that might attribute to those conversations might have been? So was it like, okay, she wanted this type of young man, and she was also coming. And when I say she was interested in this one kind of man she might deal with in school, but then from an academic mentorship standpoint, when you are now mentoring or doing your work with the young lady, the conversation she was having was because of what lack do you think that was forcing it to be attractive to have the conversation with you versus than somebody else?
Well, I think one, sometimes you're looking for a perspective. So even as a young woman, I would assume that, you know, a perspective from an older adult male might help shed some light on what you might be going through, how that young man might be thinking. And to me, I always try to approach it in the big brother context. What kind of advice would I give, or what kind of guidance would I give if this was my younger sister? Now, I have no younger sisters, right? So I would always caution that, you know, there may be someone better to talk to about this. But I would give my experience, my understanding. Sometimes I was, you know, right or correct in my initial assumptions about the situation. Sometimes I was a little off. Sometimes there was more there, you know. But what it allowed me to do, and I think what allowed the conversations to continue and allowed them to seek me out for that guidance, is that I was always honest. And I didn't want to project to them that I knew all the answers and that what I said was going to actually go out and actually happen, you know?
From your perspective.
Right. I let them know that here is the advice that I would give, you know? And if there's, and I would caution, and I would also, you know, encourage them to seek other people's advice that they valued. So I just appreciated them opening up, because you never know how just opening up to someone keeps you even for the rest of the day. Maybe she was about to go upside his head, you know, and maybe that conversation, just that 15-minute engagement might help quell things and might help her make a better decision on how to deal with it.
That's interesting that you said that. So, man, this is going to be a good episode of Talk HE podcast. I said it before I got here. I'm glad I got here. Man, where do we want to go with this one today? All right, this is what I will say. I want to stay in high school because I feel like why we even went here is because I want to give you credit. Mm-hmm. I feel like a lot of times in the spaces that we're in, we don't get credit for some of the things that we do because it's not seen in perspectives that would understand the impact of what is being done. Mm. So, for example, like being a black man and then seeing another black male representative in an educational setting that look like me, sound like me, move like me, but like 3, 4, 5 years older than me, comfortably navigating how I would want to navigate, but or maybe not all the way want to, but in a way that I see like, okay, it makes sense that he was able to get to this level. It might not be, you know, Jay-Z, but I knew what it was at my school being who I was. Mm-hmm. So for you to be here in this space at my school, being respected, being able to navigate, and being as young as well was very impressive to me. Because I understand the politics that happen at my school. It's kind of like when your parents fight, but you might not know what the hell they're fighting about, but you understand why they're fighting, or you understand the nuances of the fight. Right. You don't know what it really means, but you just know that it's an issue. Mm-hmm. I knew that the issues that was happening at Wagner, I might have not understood the politics of it, but I understood the politics of it because it affected me as well. Wow. So when I see someone that was like younger, in the sense of academia, not look like the rest of everybody else, and be from a place where I'm at and just be here grinding and hustling, and also I'm like, yo, listen, like I'm just here to help. I'm going to gravitate to that because everything else in that environment isn't that. The only time they love you is when you pop in, or when you look non-threatening, or when you know how to read, write, speak, do math, and play sports, and and do like when you well-rounded and you just are the perfect black representation of your institution. So for me, it was like I did what I needed to do to get the hell in and out of there the way I was supposed to. It ain't about nothing else. And I ain't doing it for nobody else. I understood what the game looked like. So I just had to play it to the best of my advantages with hopes of finding the things that made sense to me in it. So when I see somebody else having to come and actually navigate in that space and actually do it, I'm going to gravitate to that.
Wow, it's so powerful. And I appreciate that because, you know, for me, it was something I didn't see myself going into. And so when the internship was offered to me, they're like, "Hey, you work at Susan Wagner." And I was like, "Okay, fine," you know. And I started there, and I'll be honest, I came in with this sense that I think a lot of new folks into the education work come in with. I came in with feeling like, yeah, you know, I'm going to be able to change all these kids' lives, and I am God's gift to their education. And I quickly realized that I was not even close. I quickly realized that part of the process for me helping all of my students was for me to listen, observe, learn, figure out what it was about each student that I could latch onto as a way to build a relationship. And your journey and what I saw of you in high school at that time reminded me so much of myself. I was a student in high school that I believe, quite honestly, that the white administration focused heavily on because I, you know, defied their understanding of what black male achievement could be, you know. And, you know, so in many ways I saw the damage that did to me. And one thing I didn't have was a me in that context that could balance. And I never wanted that to happen to anybody else, especially not someone who I saw so much of myself in. So I appreciate that, man. And you and your success are just a testament to any of the work that I've done, and that stands, and that's what I really enjoy about doing this work, being able to see it come full circle like that.
Yeah, man, you was pretty cool, man. I ain't gonna lie. And a special shout out to Annalisa Suka. I'm sorry for putting out your information. That's what it is. It be like that sometimes. Nothing is private anymore. Hashtag just go on Google. But nah, like without a doubt, like yo, like if it wasn't for you guys, like you both helped me get to college. And like I said, when we spoke about off air, like I was blessed to be able to stand on a lot of shoulders of a lot of giants, or at least being able to recognize giants when I seen them. It was kind of like my perspective was never like on some like, oh, you could only be this. I knew I couldn't be the president at the age of like 7 because I wasn't born in America. But the fact that someone even brought that to my attention at 7 is pretty cool. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So for me, I met a lot of great people. So when things around me, like whether in my traditional lifestyle or whether in systemic oppression that was supposed to limit me, I kind of was able to find the silver lining or the light at the shine at the tunnel for everything. So for me, it was very easy to be able to recognize like, okay, well, all right, here's another unicorn. Here's another motherfucker that's not supposed to be here. Why is he here? What is his plot? What is his plot? What is the climax supposed to look like? I got to read through all this fluff. So let's read through it. And when I met you and I realized like, yo, there's people here that's going to actually take time to help me with my scholarship essays. That's when I realized, oh, it's up there. Because I wanted to go to the greatest schools. That was never my issue. My issue was at that time to be really popping. Like, yeah, I wore a bow tie. Yeah, the school respected me. Yeah, I was part of mad clubs. Yeah, I played sports. But I had my little joints, and you know I was around. You know, I was doing what I need to do. Like the issue for me was like, how do I not plateau? And the problem is when the sky is the limit, there's still a limit, and no one talks about it. And the limit is whether or not you believe you can fly or not.
There you go.
And
wow,
if you don't have people that's gonna help you believe that you can fly when you're in the air, it's kind of like someone cheering you like, yeah, you can do it. Yeah, fuck what they talking about. I think we gonna beat them. Like imagine that one for like, yeah. Like it's like battle rap. It's like battle rap when you have that one dude like, get that nigga wrecked. Like you really like, yo, this is the best rapper ever, and I'm about to really finish him in front of everybody. Like you might not have that confidence in yourself up until that battle, but it's like having those people along the way that's gonna be like, yo, bro, get that. You can do that. Yeah. It helps you kind of like believe you can actually do it. Yeah. And when I met you as well as Annalisa, it was kind of like, y'all don't know me from anything. Y'all don't owe me anything. And you guys are willing to help me. And y'all cool. I felt like I was like, yo, if this is what college feels like, I'm going to college.
You know what? It's a big, and you know, I don't want to speak for her, but I will definitely say on behalf of our work together that we did as partners that was a huge accomplishment. We took a lot of pride in your success, because what we saw in you was that you wanted it. Not only did you want it for wanting to do it for process, going to college, but you wanted it because you wanted to be successful. You wanted to take that step. And for me, I look back at where I was in that place, and I didn't have that. I didn't have those kind of guts. So you were taking a hold of your future in a way that, for myself, I know for Annalisa, we couldn't do anything but support that as best we could, man. And so I thank you not only for the words that you say, you know, in honor of us. But I thank you for pushing it forward, because that is the work. That is why I do it. If I did it for thank yous, they'd be few and far between. I do it because then I get the cool opportunity of coming on a podcast that's owned, created, and operated by someone I had a hand in helping grow. And that's the cool thing.
Yeah, man, y'all all tuned into the world's greatest podcast. I don't just say this because it looks lit on the shirt. This is the world's greatest podcast. It just, listen, we are in the heart of downtown Staten Island as we speak. What are you talking about? Like, who else do you know during quarantine is in the heart of downtown Staten Island as we speak? Come on, it's a different kind of vibe, man.
Downtown Staten Island.
Downtown Staten. Shout out to all of the most immaculate 24-hour foods places. If you know, around downtown Staten Island. Yeah, crazy times, right? Crazy times. So, yep, college. We did that. We got into college. I wanted to bring you up because we got into college, paid for by like I think 3 or 4 different scholarships. I never saw so much free money coming to me with less work in my life.
There you go.
I was getting so much free money at that time with the money I was making on the side from just grinding. I was like, yo, I might want to do the school hustle because the free money, the access, the free Gucci meals, that was great when we went to like the fundraisers and all these people in my face trying to gas me up. And then people will leave me, like, well, I'll go back to my neighborhood or just be around my friends and they'd be like, yo, how was that? It was cool. And I was meeting a lot of amazing people. Like, one of the best people I've ever met from a scholarship joint was my bro Davon Campbell. Supreme _ though. He's like really lit right now. He's the one that's doing like these evolution of hip hop through like their facial and hairstyles through their albums.
Wow.
Yeah, he's lit. I met him at the PTA scholarship. When I won both of them, I know I had to throw it out. I won both of them with the help of you guys. I bought both of the 2001.
I take a lot of pride in that. That's
both
dope.
$2,000. You know, the PTA scholarship was $2,000 each. I won first on both of them. The same year. Boy. I went to the first one. The first one I went to is when I met him. He won a scholarship for designing the cover for it. Mm-hmm. Goes crazy. I still have the picture of the cover, I think, somewhere. I know the concept, and I want to do something with it. And then the second one was the one that they tell you at graduation in front of everybody.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now that's dope.
That's the one that your ex-girlfriend, that their parents don't like you, they see you. Yo, and we would like to give this scholarship to one of our most prized students.
Redemption Day.
This scholarship is a scholarship that only one of the entire graduation class gets.
Oh yeah, they put all the juice on there, right?
It wasn't the valedictorian who got it. It wasn't the salutatorian. It was this little black boy. And they tell you about what the scholarship is. This scholarship asks a question, but how do you make the world better, and how do you overcome obstacles to ensure academic success? This scholar, yo, bro, he is they love throwing neighborhoods out there. He is a resident of Mariners Heart. At Wagner High School.
Don't let it be a local guy.
They're like, wait, what?
Don't let it be a local.
You mean
figure.
to tell me Great Kills didn't get it, Huguenot didn't get it? You mean to tell me all these other schools with these great education systems from IS4 and IS7 and IS whatever didn't get it?
Right.
Little nigga from 51 got that hole?
Listen, man.
It was up there. It was up there. It was up there. It was up there, bro. I was like, and I went and I got it. And, you know, the black people go,
Listen, man, that's one thing that unites us is when we see success, especially when we see success in spite of, right? And so believe you me, you know, to stand on there and to have that moment, it's not only gratifying for yourself and your family.
And you know they try to rush that shit too. They try to all right, we gotta keep it going. No, fuck all of y'all.
I'm taking the whole time, right?
I'm extra'd out from the minute I walk into graduation. So I knew I had to it looked like that's like LeBron coming into town and he in his hometown going against a rival team and he know he about to go for 40. I was going for 40. I was just happy to be there.
Game 6 in Boston, huh?
I'm just happy to be here.
Listen, So how did you? And I don't make a point of asking too many questions on someone else's show, but
this is community. We gonna do this.
I have to ask you, what were your experiences with race or racism inside school? Because you were someone that, you know, I was like, okay, I see a lot of myself in that. I could see that, but I want to see. I was always fascinated to see if you had some of the similar experiences. So what did you experience?
You want to know how far it goes?
How far, man?
Pre-K. For me, it went as far as pre-K. My best friend in pre-kindergarten was Asian. Chinese dude named Daniel, right? I seen him. We went to high school together. We went to math school together, low key, high key. But after pre-K, we went to school at like PS21 together, and I felt like we were still mad cool, but there was a separation. And then I gravitated to the Spanish girl, like not really like she was just my homegirl. She was a solid person, but I felt like a huge separation. And then after that, I left the school, right? So I left pre-K. I'm like, all right. Then I go to kindergarten, and then I'm like, yeah, you know, there's a lot of weird shit going on. Like there's things that people can do, and they're not gonna get held accountable for it. But then at the same time, I also felt like there was a lot of separation, right? So I separated. Then I went to PS60. So when I was at PS60, I think my senior year, there was only like 3 black kids who graduated at PS60 in Bullset. So it was me, my bro Carl Ravelis, and Somi. Then I think that Brandon Korash was the 4th. Charlotte, I think transferred out. There was only like a handful of us though. You know, in fact, I can still name them off the top of my head. It's kind of crazy. There was Frangelette, who's Spanish. Christina Ramirez, who's Spanish. Besides, like, it was very, and then everybody else was like the kids in like the special classes, not the special classes, but the ISS classes. Yeah, so outside, like, but we ain't ever like they're older than us. They really not supposed to really be talking to us type shit. So it was only like 7 of us. You know what I'm saying? And we were all cool vibing, whatever. So I knew that there was stuff going on because I never got to be out. I was in the honors class, and I was the only black kid in the honors class, I think in the 4th grade. That's the earliest I was in a high class. 1st grade, they put me in like a decent class. 2nd grade, they tried to put me in like a regular class. 3rd grade, my mom was like, nah, you got to put him, like, that's how I had like an honors class, but that's when 9/11 happened. And then 4th grade, I had like the old conservative white guy. Super old conservative white guy. And they was giving us problems, but it challenged my parents more than it challenged me, because you know at that time your parents are the ones helping you with your schoolwork. Yeah. So it was I could see where a lot of those things might have came, and I was like, okay, well, yeah. And then in my final year, they didn't put me in the honors class. They put me in like the regular class kind of thing, right? But I appreciated it because that year, when I guess I could have been more of an elitist kind of student. Like, because you got to think about it, everything that you do at a young age is impressionable. Yes. So, 4th grade, having like a really kind of elitist teacher to go on to... Because 3rd grade, I had like a motherly teacher. 2nd grade, I had like grandma's little... If I'm not mistaken, I think 1st grade was Miss Joris. 2nd year, I don't remember. 3rd grade, I think was Mr. Rubish. 3rd grade was Miss Pollock. 4th grade was Mr. Rubish. 5th grade was Mr. Farley. So Mr. Rubish was a little more conservative. Mr. Farley was on the more liberal side. Cool guy, young, every my whole class. So we was doing a lot of art stuff, fun stuff. We just made fun of him because he sweated a lot, all that shit. Right. But the honors class, I wasn't in. You feel what I'm saying? It was kind of like, okay, yeah, I'm smart. Yeah, I'm entertaining. So let me entertain everybody. But the honors class, I'm not in when I have the grades and the credentials, right? So even at that time, the kids feel they better than you because they're in an honors class. When I got out of there, I had gotten good grades. At that time, I think they started really stressing like the regents. And for a 5th grade, I think I was like one of the 2 or 3 people in my class that passed. I'm in a regular class.
Yeah, it was standardized.
But you got to think about the honors class, half the class in the past. So just you to be black is to be nuanced, to understand the nuances. To be black and intellectual means to understand nuances in everything. Because a dictatorship or a fascist kind of system doesn't understand nuance. They only know their perspective. So now I'm in the 5th grade and I'm like, you got all these kids who had all this training and all this exposure, and y'all didn't let me in that class. But even with the dude who's like the fun teacher, while still taking the lead entertainment role as the lion in The Wizard of Oz. You know, like first and second scene, and as a young dude, don't know none of this stuff, so I'm just supposed to be doing the most random stuff and make people laugh with their parents. I'm just like the court jester. I was still able to be the guy, the kid, black kid that didn't come from whatever. You already know what my background looks like. To be able to be one of the few kids to be able to do well in a system, despite not having the resources the other kids got. Because the other teachers teaching their kids focus on getting past the Regents. My teacher's teaching me a bunch of different shit, just to just get me through my day, right?
Wow.
So now 6th grade comes around. I'm in honors class. I go to instead of going to 72 with everybody else, they forced me to go to my zone school at 51. My sister went to 72. Why can I not go to 72?
Wow.
Forced me to go to 51. While I'm at 51, the first day I'm at 51, I see someone get knocked out.
Welcome to school, right?
Welcome to school. I'm seeing young Spanish kids repping whatever they repping in their neighborhood, cousins coming in together. I'm like, yo, where the hell? I went from PX60 in Bull's Head to IS51. That's IS51. Like, I'm talking IS51 in 2005, 6. So, like, before us, it was hell. But like around 6, 7, 8, they started to try to reform, because I think at that time Westerly was coming up. A lot of the and there was a lot of bad press around IS51.
Right.
So that's when I came in. Now at 51 was interesting because I felt like I was in the jungle, but I felt comfortable. Like I had a very high sense of self, regardless of what was going on around me. So yeah, I wasn't like everybody else. Still black though.
Right.
So yeah, the teachers might treat me with a little more respect, but I'm still black though. When I'm done with my teachers, I got to deal with the black people that look at me like, yo, you African. What that mean? Like, yo, what you smell like? Why you don't smell like the other Africans we see? Like, and I'm like, what are you talking about? You black. You look crazy. Where's your father at? Like that's how it's coming. Because if I didn't come that way, bro, they was going to rip me apart.
Yeah.
They were going to rip me apart, because you got to think about it. Like, there's not a one shot. Like, there's not a one way to blackness. And to be African and still have a sense of blackness, and then you're around a bunch of kids who don't understand blackness past what they see in their neighborhoods. The only Africans they know is what they see on YouTube, what their parents talk about Africans, whatever. So I was the African, but I was black as hell. Like, I played ball, and I was going to give you buckets, even though the way I played wasn't what you see in your neighborhood. You flashy as hell. I'm effective. I play defense. You don't. You got to outwork me. You're not going to. I'm going to be effective. I'm going to get mine, because you're not going to do what it takes. You're not going to do the small things that's going to do what it takes to get to that next level. You're going to look good while you do it, though. You're going to have 10 points, but you're going to have that drop in that 10 points. Like, oh, he dropped somebody. I'm going to have like 10, 5. I'm going to have 10, 10, 10 across the board. And we're going to come out with the win, because you only were able to score 10 points and you're supposed to score 20. You on average score 20. So that's how it's coming. And yes, so eventually once I started getting respect from my classmates and excelling academically, I started getting a lot of bad pressure from my administrators. Because it was like, I guess what I learned was I was inspiring people that was not supposed to be inspired.
See, when the greatest thing you can keep, if you want to keep folks down, you keep access to knowledge away from them. And so, you know, and knowledge comes in all forms, you were presenting other students knowledge. You were building capacity. You were building the capacity, oh, snap, I could do this. I could exist in this frame. I could be completely comfortable in self and still do this, you know. And so there's power in that. The problem is when you do not have an interest in empowering your young people, you see it as a threat. Hence administrative response, hence targeting, hence very nuanced, subtle forms of dog whistling. So
what I learned that's funny enough, that Wesley is like where a lot of the police officers on the North Shore live at. I'm not trying to put anybody in no dangerous situation. That's not what I'm trying to do. But when you think about the influence of community and the sense of what that community is and what it represents. Mm-hmm. So when I look at community, I look at everybody who contributes to a place of living in a beneficial way, right? So when you look at that community, the people who are able to contribute, they're in power. They're in places of power. They can actually be able to have an influence. And what are the morals behind their influences? Mm-hmm. Why do they? What did they do to get to where they had to get to? And what is it that they're trying to instill in this community? Mm-hmm. And I felt like, cause even like we all people were fighting at 51, but it was like we knew the cops were coming quickly. Like it wasn't like you're gonna fight at 51 knowing you're gonna fight for an hour. You was fighting for 30 seconds to prove a point and get out your way. So for me, I ain't really have to deal with that type of problem.
It's funny because, you know, as a graduate of a high school that had a very similar makeup to the one that you went to.
Go high school?
New Dorp High School.
Really?
So.
Oh man. Wait. Can we introduce? This episode?
Sure.
30 minutes in. This episode, we decided to call this episode is "How Do You Like Your Racism?" And I want to hashtag racism. I can't even hashtag that shit. Damn. How do you like your fascism? So why I say that is because I feel like there's a distinction between racism and fascism, but there's a lot of stark like similarities. Mm-hmm. So right. It's kind of like racism is kind of like, oh, I don't like you based on race. Yo, you racist. I don't fuck with you. Systemically, I will make sure that you are not a part of my in-group. Systemically, I won't let you come and play on my team. And if you play on my team, it's because I need you to win a bigger game that you don't know anything of. So at the end of the day, you eat, I eat too. You look cool in your little neighborhood, and I still look cool where I gotta be cool at. Like it's that. Where fascism is the overarching like goal of it. Like. Racism is kind of like the tactics that you use to get there, one of them, but fascism is the goal. You feel me? So it's like, how do you like your racism? Hashtag, how do you like your fascism? Mm-hmm. So why I say that, because now we're in a situation where as after COVID-19, and we now seeing that black people are negatively impacted with COVID because of not just because of COVID, because COVID might not be real, might be real. We don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of people are skeptical about what COVID is because people are still outside and they're not dying. But it's also like, as well as the fact that a lot of people, there's like rumors or allegations that a lot of doctors are getting paid more money to report other health illnesses as COVID-19 from insurance companies and stuff like that. So, or I don't want to say insurance company, it might be big pharma, but let me stay out their pocket because that's not my business. But we don't know really what everything is with COVID, because this is probably the most informed, uninformed people we've ever seen in history. So you're now seeing that maybe it might not be COVID, because let's say that COVID might not be a thing, or COVID might just be the flu and then you don't get the treatment for it. It might just be that there's a whole world of other issues that are contributed to these people being negatively impacted that we were never paying attention to. So how do you like your racism?
You know,
and who are you? I don't think they know who you are yet.
Well, I introduced myself earlier, but I'll introduce myself again.
I don't think they really know you though.
So listen, my name is Mike Williams, and I'm an educator, activist, organizer, a bunch of things. But you know, it's a fantastic question and a fantastic way to frame this conversation. Because it's so multifaceted, you know, our system will force you to take your racism a number of ways. The question you have to ask is it in the goal of fascism? Is it in alignment with what a fascist government wants, or is it just a constitutional republic that has problems becoming more perfect? So if you see one as glass half full, you know, you might take the latter. If you see it as glass half empty, you might take the former. Those policies, I'll frame it this way. I had a conversation with a business owner around here in the neighborhood, and he's a Jewish man, and we were having a conversation about everything happening with George Floyd and all of the current cases.
Which everyone wants to talk about now, by the way.
Right, which is currently hot topic. I was actually trying to just, grab some supplies and get on out the store, but he had to have this conversation. I figured because he saw a black male and this is the conversation he wanted to have. So now we're having this conversation. And so he starts by telling me, I wrote papers on discrimination. I wrote a thesis on discrimination from Plessy to Roe. And I said, so then you have a really well-founded understanding of racial policy in America at the constitutional level. And so he persists into the cascade of arguments about why black folks shouldn't do X or black folks shouldn't do Y. And somehow or another, he comes to the point in the conversation where, exasperated, he says, I had great aunts and uncles who died in the Holocaust. And I said to him, I'm sorry for the loss of your family members. That's awful. I said, pardon me if I want to make a point here. Do you see how the Nazis saw the white skin of the Jewish men and women and children and did not regard it as white per their definition? And they went about a systemic and a systematic execution of a group of folks. Just understand that I had great uncles and aunts, great uncles who went to fight in World War II. And they went to fight to save, in part, your great ancestors from the tyrannies of racism and a fascist government. However, my great uncles came home to redlined communities. GI Bill that didn't really help them. And add to that, they could be lynched and their bodies could be snatched without due process.
After going to a war that everyone loves to speak is so American.
In uniform. There were actually white folks who did not respect that black men could serve in the U.S. Armed Forces.
And to be quite frank, that white man right. Because me personally, I ain't fighting for no war for no people that don't fuck with me. I ain't doing that. What am I fighting for? Fuck am I fighting? Y'all good? Y'all don't need me.
And so when you think about the perils of what we exist in at the moment, we exist in a society and in a frame that has always known about its racism, has always been aware of it, and has chosen to ignore it until physically they couldn't. You're quarantined, you're at home, you watch endless amounts of TV, and so you got to see a man's life be taken in front of you 8 minutes. See, and so I tend to have a glass half full inclination about race in this country and racism in this country, but I tend to have a real pessimistic, realistic feeling about it. I feel like we're getting symbols. We are getting some slight policy shifts, but I would like my racism in this country to be dismantled systemically. I don't think it gets dismantled symbolically.
Okay, where do we gonna go with this one? I agree with you. So the problem is, like I said, there's many problems. Capitalism is the number one religion in the United States, right? We know this. Everybody is not a Christian, they're a capitalist. No matter if you're Muslim, You're Dominican, Chinese, atheist, you're a capitalist, right? So that's something that everyone must follow, right? That's a religion. That's not
great.
That controls the soul of men, right? Money. I don't care how. The only people who don't care about money is homeless people on the street, and they still care about money because they're still asking for it. So capitalism runs this. There's no God in America. God is the dollar. Sadly. So when you disregard this God, now you're in a weird space because now you're no longer, you look at the atheist in the Christian church. You're the homosexual in the Christian church. You know what I'm saying? In the Catholic church, you don't look good. You know, it don't make sense to everybody, but they can't tell you can't serve God, and they can't tell you that you don't love God, because to not love you and not love God's creatures and creation, that is really kind of anti everything you've been taught in this religion. So if you can't love this person despite what you might not agree with, so it's very different. And the standard of who you are in their eyes, regardless as how righteous they think they are, you'll never be. So there's that portion, right? Then the next portion is that the United States is a reactive system. It has a reactive system. So Black Lives Matter, what do you throw out? All lives matter, blue lives matter. Why? Disregard what the actual overarching motivations for these protests are, with hopes to still discredit, control, instill fear, and just overarching just separate people from the real issue at hand. Because nobody to address that issue is what? To then have to come to the conversation of what? Reparations. How do we... Because they call it white guilt. It's not white guilt. It's accountability. It's not white guilt. It's really accountability. And let's just call it what it is. Nobody wants to be accountable because accountability sucks. You have to be willing to either grow with it or be able to show whether you just don't give a fuck. And if you don't give a fuck, then morally you're just a bad person. And everything that you always stand for is now a facade. So don't call yourself a Christian. Don't call yourself a morally righteous person. Don't say you're superior. Just say that you're willing to do whatever it takes to get to where you want to go. And if you do that, then I think people have to respect you more. That's why people respected Hitler. Hitler. I never got to read his Grand Reich or whatever the hell he called it. But I know the reason why people really mess with Hitler and a lot of speakers of the world is not because he himself was the most supreme. He was basically telling everybody that, yo, if you look like Shorty over there, if you don't look like Shorty over there with the blonde hair, green eyes, and a nice little body, then you deserve to be executed. You're not even on her level. He was able to speak to that 1%ers. He was able to speak to those people and be like, yo, convince them to be like, yo, like, listen, like, fuck with me. I'll do whatever y'all need me to do, but I'm gonna get y'all where y'all deserve to be.
He capitalized he capitalized on the base instinct of folks.
On the irresistible bait of that. Like, if I'm like, yo, bro, you mess with me, bro, I'm gonna make sure you get $1 million. You're gonna have houses like every floor feel like this. Dulce gonna flow from your water fountain. And on top of that, your kids don't have nothing to worry about. You can do whatever hell you want. Any queen you want, it's yours. And I'm like, all you gotta do is this. How far you want? If all it takes is you just open your door and going down the stairs, you're gonna open that door and go down the stairs. It's irresistible. What's that really gonna do to you? To take a chance like that, to get everything you want. And that's what the world is, especially here. The issue is, unlike everything else everywhere, like people always talk about, like, oh, black people in Africa, and they should have sent a boat over and came and got us. They sold us. It wasn't that you were sold because you was black. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was in Africa, the concept of blackness didn't start to become a thing until the introduction of whiteness. So when people talk about reparations, they gotta understand that the Black American experience is very, very unique, and it's very, very real. But you also gotta understand, like, America is a braggadocious kind of country, so they're showing the world like, yo, we've done this to people, we're gonna keep doing this to people, we switch it up on people, and we're not afraid to do this to you too.
It's for
we're media, bro. This is what we're about. We're about language, media, and optics. That's it. And money, and we want to put the money behind our military. So if you invest your money, if your whole religion is about, let's say like Christianity is about Buddhism, right? I think Buddhism is the golden rule, or one of karma. Let's just say, like, your religion, one and only thing is the golden rule of karma. You know what I mean? You gonna move by karma. America's golden rule is money. So if my money is saying I value my money the most, and where I spend my money means where I value my time, we spend our money on a couple things more than everybody else. But the number one thing is incarcerating people and warfare. We don't put no money in no education like that. So if all of our money is going into our warfare and our prisons to prove a point, and we're doing this in our country with a big TV screen on top of it, with Twitter telling you live stream what's happening, and then it's getting suppressed by the government in live time. What do you think they'll do to other countries? Bro, we use a whole nuclear bomb in Japan. I don't know of any other nation. I don't think there's been another nation in the world to ever use a nuclear warfare in war.
In war, I mean, and listen, there are considerations that
Really think about that shit. Yo, fuck everybody. Yo, I'm dropping that shit. Your whole, for 10 years, your kid's gonna have an elbow out there coming out their forehead. Like,
listen, I don't. When I look at something like that, the nuclear, just a horrific instrument of war, that clearly has defined the way we've lived for nearly the past century. And if you look at its usage,
homie said reset.
If you look at its usage, when Truman decides to drop the bomb, if you those who teach and learn from straight American history, is he had a couple of options, right? He could not drop the bomb, and he could invade Japan. Now, he had made certain military considerations. Russia was going to join the fight. But think, at this point, Truman knows that the Soviets know that he has the bomb. Okay? He also knows, he finds out that they've probably known for the better part of 3 years now, since it's been started to develop. And they did. They had spies in the country. And so when he has the options on the table to drop the bomb, the options are drop the bomb, don't drop the bomb, but if you don't drop the bomb, then you gotta invade Japan. All right? You're talking about a country with just been 4 years of war. You're talking about very destructive war. You're talking about having a great sense of victory in Europe by defeating the Nazis at the time. And now the casualty estimates that Truman is looking at are upwards of 1 million soldiers. This is where the nastiness of geopolitics and human rights and honestly morality come into that mix. It's why we would love for our political leaders to be moral leaders as well. But there are times where they just cannot be. And so Truman, based on that understanding of history, makes the decision to drop the bomb as a way to not have to invade Japan. I look at it a little deeper. If he invades Japan and Russia, Soviet Union has to join the war, what are you then gonna have to do with the Soviet Union? You gotta agree to give them a part of it.
Everybody gotta catch that. And Russia like that. Russia been like that. If they knew for 3 years, they were like that.
Right. And so they knew for 3 years, but they didn't have the technological capability. They didn't have the science, right? 4 years after the war's over, they get the science, right? And they get most of that science because they imported a lot of what America and what Russia did is they basically had a quiet Cold War over all the German scientists, right? That came out of the Nazi regime. So that's why they got relocated to places in South America. Some got relocated here, somewhere in Soviet captivity. But you look at something like the end of World War II, and why the bomb gets dropped on Japan in the straight retelling of American history. And if you look at it from the political perspective, you can understand it. If the options on the desk as president are lose 1 million American lives, do I think about re-election? Not when you lose 1 million lives, or up to 4 years of war, and you got a weapon that may be able to get. And understand this, and I don't want to underplay this, and then I'm gonna leave the point. Just to wrap this point up, you're talking about the empire of Japan at the time. There's not a group of folks that's gonna just surrender. They were battered and beaten.
They're here.
And they weren't surrendering to that point. Truman told them. He told them, I have the bomb. I have the most destructive thing the world has ever seen. I will drop it on you. Okay? If you look at the time between the end of the war in Europe at the end of April, early May of 45, and August of 45, when they finally dropped the bomb, that's time where American army is fighting, gaining land. But literally by mid-June, the writing's on the wall for Japan. The question is, are they going to surrender before the United States has to either drop these bombs or invade Japan? And Truman clearly made the decision, not once, but twice. People remember there were 2 bombs dropped. He dropped
Nagasaki
one,
and then Hiroshima.
and so he dropped the first bomb and said, will you surrender? And the Empire of Japan said no. So you look at the moral leadership of that country as well. And so I don't want anybody to come away from this podcast and say, Michael Williams supports dropping nuclear bombs on nations. I don't. I'm just talking from a historian's point of view. Me personally, in that position, I try to look for some other diplomatic way. But I also am very real and very honest. I don't know that if I'm a sitting president of the United States and I have exactly the same set of considerations on my desk that Harry Truman had at the time, that I don't make that same decision. I can't say that for sure.
What about if it's your own citizens there?
My own citizens is a different consideration. I'm not going to commit to killing my own citizens. That's a tougher decision to make. And even that decision, I can see in a certain military and tactical sense, I can see how they have made them before. I can see leaders making decisions that say, you know what, I'll sacrifice this many of ours to save a certain amount of many of ours if it means getting a certain objective done. Do I think it's a prudent way to go about doing anything? Absolutely not. But I also can see why that perspective might be useful to someone. I don't know.
So how do you feel? You like, well, now we're going back to probably 10 minutes in this conversation. You are a New Dorp.
Yes.
High school. My apologies to New Dorp High School, man. Whatever. Yeah.
It's the NDs.
Notre Dame and the green, man. Only green I know is on the Staten Island with the ND is Notre Dame, man. Them Queens with the green, man. I show them love, man. I'm sorry.
We love the ND guys. So yeah, I'm a graduate of New Dorp. New Dorp is very, it's got a history. It had a history that I was aware of before it got there, but now that history is coming right back into focus in the last week, I would say, here on Staten Island. An assistant principal made shared some racist
I can find that for you.
remarks about whom she felt as a white woman was really privileged in this society. And it was very much a not so thinly veiled attack on poor or impoverished black and brown communities. She is an assistant principal of, I believe, special education and curriculum. She was an assistant principal when I was there in the building, so I am familiar with this woman. It does not surprise me. It does not shock me. But what it does is it refocuses me on the understanding that, one, racism on Staten Island is part of the DNA of the borough. Mm-hmm. The borough is constructed based on that racism, geographically. Okay, the area that we're broadcasting in right now is was a heavily redlined area.
Shout out to downtown Staten Island,
right? In which just a few blacks or one black could devalue a whole area. Okay, so the context of what that assistant principal shared was to highlight and refocus everyone to a history on this island of entrenched racism in almost every institution, in almost every system, its education system, its political systems, its housing, okay? Its spaces. Just when you're talking spaces in the borough, what gets allocated where, what is accessible to whom, whose children get access to what, okay? It is indicative in the way the island has cut up its youth services. Its youth services has been divided between two organizations, who essentially hold no board members or executive staff of color in any real way, in any real, and if they do, they hold folks of color who are not in touch with the communities in which they are supervising and serve.
Can't forget politics.
And so, the past couple of months, the past month, the energy from the young people here, the energy to be politically active, the energy to call out some of the systems that we've been operating under, has even re-energized me.
Would you like to actually hear the post? I actually found it. It
Please
says,
do. Please do.
Miss Debbie Ann, that's their thing. I don't want to say whole government. Should I put whole government out there? No, I'm going to leave it alone. I don't want to give that much clap. It said, what is privilege? Privilege is wearing $200 sneakers when you never had a job. Privilege is wearing $300 Beat headphones while living on public assistance. Privilege is having a smartphone with a data plan which you receive no bill for. Privilege is living in public subsidized housing where you don't have a water bill, where rising property taxes and rent and energy costs have absolutely no effect on the amount of food you can put on the table. Privilege is the ability to go march against and protest against anything that triggers you without worrying about calling out of work and the consequences that accompany such behavior. Privilege is having as many children as you want, regardless of your employment status, and be able to send them off to daycare or school that you didn't pay for. Privilege is sending your kids sending your kids to school early for the before and after breakfast, and then keeping them from after for dinner. And then she comes from her. See, this is my thing. If she didn't come from where she came from and understood the actual societal things, the systemic things that affected those things, I could okay with that. If it came from someone from the cloth, I could be like, okay, I understand. You came from this. You were a little upset because you guys started the same place, and now this person, because they ain't do nothing, they getting more. But the reason why she failed to understand some of the things that maybe the people that she's in tune with and her ancestors and her friends and her uncles and her friends' uncles who are very successful that she looks up to were doing these things so that she could be able to have the gumption to have this conversation. And I felt like saying privilege is a white woman saying these things and still having a job as the assistant principal at a high school that has traditionally been racist and caters to white students. These are the people who are teaching our children at our schools, making decisions on policies.
Yeah. And I think about it in such a visceral way. Cletus, when I was a junior in high school, and my next guest on my show is going to be one of my former high school teachers, a white woman who I found to be one of my biggest advocates in the building, in a real way, in a real sense, for real things. And so during this whole thing, I'm thinking about the comments of this assistant principal, and I write this teacher and I say, do you remember when we fought for a Black History course to be instituted into the school building? And they told us, well, you would have to teach it with other minorities too. And we fought against that. Don't you think it's a good time? And what she said to me is that a couple of years before our class had come in, she had gone to the assistant principal of that department. And she had said, look, I have a really good, person, man of color, Black man. I really think it'd be awesome. The response from the administrator was, well, what's wrong with our department the way it is?
Oh man! So I got on Facebook the other day on June 20th, and I asked the question. I said, "How do you like your racism? Political, which is MAGA and CAG. You know what CAG is, right? Keep America Great.
Yes, keep America great.
I'm still confused about that, but okay, especially right now. But they're gonna still push that. I said overtly with KKK. Because some people just didn't like you because you're black. They call anybody black, like kind of like what we seen with the hangings happening all over the world.
Yeah,
and we not knowing where it's coming from or who's responsible for it, but we know that the police is reporting on it.
And so black men, given the context of lynching in this country, are suicidal and not at home. Or anywhere more convenient. What they do is they go out to wooded areas, parks, and things of such, and they find trees to string themselves up and hang themselves. I mean, are you kidding me?
Let's keep it going. I said covertly, redlining and Jim Crow.
Yeah,
those are more covert ways of racism.
Those are some of the most insidious.
Oh yeah, it's 10 years, 10-year plus kind of effects. You gotta really do this. You gotta want to do this every day for like 10, 15 years, 20 years.
You redlining is just.
We taking everything out. Figure out how y'all gonna survive. Best of luck.
Exactly. It is literally when we talk about stacking the deck against a group. That is systemically and through policy and through financial institutions, with the tacit approval of our government, the way you stack a deck against a group of people for generations. And you think about the setbacks that we came into the 1930s with. Between the 1930s and the 1950s, the policies of redlining and urban renewal.
And Jim Crow, we know what Jim Crow was. We still don't know when is the best time to vote.
And Jim Crow, man, Jim Crow.
It was just disorder. It was a lot of disorder and a lot of distraction. It was little shit. It's like, yo, you didn't get a haircut, you can't get into the club.
But it was a way of socially controlling a group for a political purpose. And it was very effective. Very effective.
And then I said reactive. So in response to Black Lives Matter, you say all lives matter and blue lives matter.
Yeah.
That's a reactive racism.
And that racism is
it's trolling.
It's trolling, and it's so indicative of what we experience now more than ever.
It basically makes it seem like you're being emotional about something that's really real. It's like yo, bro, you're really upset over that? That's not even a big deal. Like,
Right. It is the indifference to your lived experience and your understanding. That is that kind of racism. It's the racism that says, you know what, I don't want to say that things were better when you were in a certain position, but what I will say is that, you know, I think you were more peaceful when you were in that position.
there's progress happening.
Yeah, you know.
We're not as bad as where we used to be. I wasn't there when it happened, so I don't know why you're so upset. Because you're benefiting from everything that your great granddaddy did, so, and you don't seem to see that as an issue. You think that your great granddaddy was just some hard-working Italian guy that got all this money, as if my great granddaddy was just some nigger on the street just doing nothing, minding his business, scratching his butthole, eating watermelon and chopping on chicken.
And I think it's also a form of denial. It is the greatest sense of denial when you truly don't want to see the reality that you may not have whipped a black person. You may not have denied them a mortgage or redlined them or discriminated against them in any way that you can tangibly relate to. But even if you did none of that, you exist in a privileged scenario at which the society has said you could have nothing as a white person
and still be better than the most successful black person.
There you go. And have the protections. Have a greater protection under law than wealthy black folks, which is a crazy thing.
And then I said a hybrid mix, which is funny enough, Department of Education, policing policies, and gentrification.
New York City, right? And
Staten Island. And the Democratic Party.
The Democratic Party. The current divide in whether or not the party will exist as it is, or there will be an independent break of that party.
Man, I think we need. I've been saying we need our own party. I'm not really fucking with. I'm not really fucking with the Democratic Party, and I'm not really fucking with the Republican Party. They both the same people. They're both the same.
I think we have a system that I think we have a scenario where we're locked in the two-party understanding.
Lesser two evils.
And for me, we need an independent political party. I'm also very mindful of the history of our political action. There is a reason why our current movements don't centralize behind one figure, two figures, whatever. They want to live. And so when I think about an independent party that could really, really shake up politics, for me, my understanding of this, to keep our bodies safe, is that it may have to be a coalition. And the problem with coalition politics that I found is that sometimes we form coalitions.
Amongst our coalitions.
Align with those coalition members then get extracted, get what they're asking for, and black folks still don't get what they coalesced around. And so it's a really shitty position to be in as a community, because you should be able to find success in organizing your own independent political structure, but how will that structure be protected? And listen, we can have conversations about how we protect ourselves as a community and how we do all these things. The simple truth is that we're 14% of the population. The simple truth is that they outnumber us in numbers we cannot even speak of. Okay? And they control the levers of power. So if we want to get to the levers of power in a real sense, we have to be multifaceted in our approach. Not one single way is going to get this done. It's not what got any rights done the last time. It wasn't a panacea, and as you can see, we're dealing with some of the crippling effects of some of those policies that we fought for. Why? Because we fought for the policy, but we weren't in positions of power to influence implementation. And so you see in 54, they desegregate on a federal level, so to speak, right? But in But 20 years later, in 74, Boston still hasn't desegregated. And now you have young kids coming into scenarios where they're being attacked and beaten for 20 years worth of racial entrenchment and obstruction to keep equality away from a community. Cletus, we got so many things to do as a community. But at the same time, I don't want us to fall into the trap of feeling like we can be Hercules. Because at the end of the day, the system was not built by us. So the people that are going to have to change the system, whether we accept it or not, all right, are going to have to be a majority of these white folks. Why did they have the numbers?
Or they got to be outsiders with a lot more leverage. I get it.
You know, for me, there has to be a coordinated effort. You know, we fight racism on a bunch of fronts, so there's no one way that we will fight it that will be successful. But if we don't concentrate our efforts, we're going to be marching in the street again 5 years from now, and there will be no change. As you can see, we're marching now, and they're still killing us.
Yeah, that's why I really ain't going to be at a lot of these protests, because y'all not finna talk to me any type of way and think I'm going to sit there. I'm better off just minding my business, doing what I can do. Fighting
it's
how
not
I
for everybody.
Fight.
You fight the way you fight.
Because I ain't playing with these folk like that. I don't got the heart to have these extra conversations.
You fight the way you fight. You know, we as a community cannot afford to put a litmus test of what we think actively fighting for our community is. Now, let me be very, very clear. If you finna come at me, and this is just me personally when I have these conversations, if we can't have a conversation that really comes from an understanding that racism is part and parcel of the American experience, it is what was built in, and we did not build it in there. So we cannot have the responsibility of breaking it down. And that has been, to me, a misunderstanding of how this has worked. We have allowed the system that oppresses us to then tell us that we are the solution to the system they created. Us being better at one thing or another is the way that we break the system. I don't give a damn how many PhDs we produce, how many successful people according to whatever standard we set as a community. I don't care how much we buy black. Not that I don't want us to. That's not what I'm saying. It is not going to solve our bodies being snatched in the street. It will help build capital, influence, and wealth to make our lives go from survival to thriving, but it will not, as it didn't for our leaders 100 years ago in this country, protect them from lynching, extrajudicial violence, and violence at the hands of law enforcement.
Well, we can go for hours.
Yeah.
But it's getting late.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good place to stop. Because I know my FBI agent be listening to all my podcasts. Shout out to my FBI agent. I don't know who he is. I'm going to meet him. But God bless him. I appreciate all your support. You are like my number one fan. You listen to all my podcasts, all my phone conversations. You watch all my social media posts. You probably like them and probably be telling me, nah, I need to do this better. You be watching where I go with, who I go with. And you don't leave my side. So shout out to my FBI agent. I appreciate you.
We'll talk about the FBI in another episode, man.
But thank you.
Thank
I don't
you.
tell you enough thank you. I wish you nothing but the best. I'm happy that you're still around. Glad you're healthy. And I know that your future is very bright as well, because the work that you do, like you said, it might not be something that's going to get given to you monetarily, but you will not. You are like the guy who has solidified themselves. You to me are a venture capitalist just for like people and not like companies.
Well, if that means I'm in the business of helping as many people as possible, and having a hand in developing people who then go back and give it back, then that's what this is about. Thank you, Cletus, man. Thank you for this platform. Thank you for being who you are and doing what you do.
All right. What's the name of your podcast, just in case? Because I know you have one. We've been talking about how I'm gonna come on it.
Yeah, so we're making that happen before you move to your next venture. But so my show is called Reflective Culture. I broadcast every other Thursday on Maker Park Radio, so you can find it at www.makerparkradio.nyc, or you can check us out on Twitch TV or TuneIn. Our next show is coming up on July 2nd, so that's this coming Thursday, next Thursday.
Okay, cool. All right, well, Mr. Williams, I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you, man.
All right, y'all tuned into Talk Ain't Cheap, and y'all know the vibes, man. It's usually not that deep. Thank you for your continued support. I hope everyone's mental is good. You know, I hope everyone's okay. I know a lot of people are taking a lot of L's, whether it be through COVID, during your vacation plans, your financials, just whatever it is. You know, hope everybody's in good spirits. Sending lots of love and positivity to you all. And like I said, you tuned in to Talk Ain't Cheap. It's usually not that deep. It's a vibe.